Hello and welcome back, my friends. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a bit of wintertime Hugelkultur maintenance. I know there's plenty of you probably watching this video wondering, what did he just say? Hugel what? Hugelkultur. It's one of my favorite gardening methods. It's a German concept word meaning hill culture or mound culture. I've got a mound right here that I built up several years ago with different branches and trunks from different trees that I took off the property, mixed with other organic material like old vines and whatnot, and some soil and wood chips. And I've just built this thing up. On top I put at least about a foot of soil, and I planted into that, and I had success the first year. But every year the Hugelkulturs get more abundant as things break down. As that wood decomposes, it becomes sponge-like, and the water gets absorbed throughout the winter months from the rains, and then that disperses into the mound through the summer months, so you need less watering. But you want to keep in mind, it's going to be best if you can somehow have the edges of your Hugel mound kind of contained like you would a raised bed. And you can use a mixture of logs and branches and plants. And not only is this going to help to keep all the decomposing organic matter inside the mound, but it's also going to help to keep the moisture in. Because if you have too much exposure on the sides of your Hugel mounds, it's going to dry out more rapidly. So today what I'm doing is I'm just coming through and I'm tearing down some of these vines from last season. And I'm just going to let these fall right on top of the mound. I'm going to use this material to help build up the soil profile and create more organic material on the mound itself. So there are some plants, some greens that are growing on the surface as well. And I'm going to leave those, like in this case, I'll just kind of move this one out of the way as I'm adding the material down, and we'll let that survive. But look at these beautiful greens as well. Again, these perennial greens that have really taken off and developed here on site have just been a blessing. So what I had over here last year were some rattlesnake beans that vined up this cattle panel trellis. And so I'm just taking this down. It doesn't have to be perfect. Some of this stuff might get left behind and just become more brittle, and I'll tear the rest down later. So you may or may not have any type of trellis on your Hugelkultur, so you might not have this step, in which case what I recommend doing is going around your property and taking some of the older plant material that you have that have died back. If you've got leaves, if you got some broken down wood chips, compost, this would be the time to get it on the mound. Now in the case of compost or soil that you have on site, you want to be careful that you don't have a lot of viable weed seeds in there that are going to sprout on the mound. If you do think that that's the case, then once you do this layer, this winterizing of your mound, prepping for the spring, then you're going to want to put some kind of a sheet mulch over that as well to suppress any of that weed growth. And then you can punch right through your cardboard or your brown paper material, your construction paper, and plant right through that. But this is a crucial step for keeping your Hugel mounds productive and growing well year after year and continually getting better. So you can see we've got all this new organic material now that I've added to the surface, all right? This is also the time, if you want to add any more branches, sticks, stumps, you're going to want to do that now as well. So here I've got a couple logs or larger branches from the trees that I pruned here on site. Now, if you don't have any extra trees to get stuff like this, well, this is readily available just about anywhere. You can get material like this from arborists, tree service companies, or from your neighbor even. If you see that they're doing some pruning, ask them if you can have some of that wood. And it's going to be best if you allow it to break down for a year or two. As you can see with this wood, it's beginning to crack and split. Although you can add fresh wood, it's just going to take longer for it to break down and actually become quite beneficial. Fresher wood could possibly tie up nitrogen, meaning just absorb some of the nitrogen from your surrounding soil for the first year or two, in which case I just recommend supplementing the soil with nitrogen-rich cover crops and maybe even a little bit of fertilizer if you're using fresh wood. But now's the time if you want to build up your mound. Now, I'm not going to put this wood right in the middle where I want to do my planting. I'm just going to go around the edges, and I'm going to look for any gaps that might need to be filled where soil can start to escape. So here's an area here. You can see we've got a little gap there. I'm just going to use this wood to fill that in. And over here as well, we have the edge of the Hugelkultur where the soil can have a tendency to slough off. I'm just going to fill in that gap. Just like that. Any weeds that you see growing, you can pluck out right now as well. Let me just pull out some of this soil to show you what we've got. This is beautiful, rich gardening soil. This is what you can expect when you start practicing hugelkultur. And look, we've got a rattlesnake bean in the mix. That's fine, that can grow right over here. So this soil is looking beautiful. So now what I'm going to be doing is adding a fresh layer of soil and mulch. Now, I've shared with you different techniques in doing that, whether I'm using compost here on site and then doing a layer of wood chips, but I've kind of developed that system over time as the mounds have built up to my liking. Now, this stuff right here is one of my favorite products. I'm not sponsored by the company, have no affiliation with them. It's just something that I've used in my garden around the base of my plants to mulch around a lot of my plants, and it's readily available. So regardless if you have access to wood chips or whether you have compost, something like this is going to work great. This is called Amend Organic Plus, and you can see it's used for annuals and perennials, fruit trees and such. It helps to amend clay soil. What I like to do is use it as a topper, and what ends up happening, this stuff has really fine wood products in there along with worm castings and other things. As it breaks down, the rich soil that's in this bag starts to drift down a little bit, and the top layer becomes just the little slivers of wood chips, which is great because we're mulching and we're building soil at the same time. I want to show you this. You can see here, there's even mycelium. There's even mycelium growing in this material here. Beautiful stuff. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and, well, let me spread this out a little bit more. And there you have it. In just a few minutes, we've built up this hugel mound. We've added some fresh compost and wood chips all in one go with that bag. And this is going to break down, and in another month or so, this is going to be absolutely perfect for planting. You could plant in this right away, but you're just going to kind of pull this back, get into the native, stir it up wherever you're going to plug in your plant, and plant right in there. Here we've got a calabash gourd. This thing's full of seeds. Now you can make bird houses out of these. They're edible vegetables when they're smaller than this, but I like to leave a couple every year to collect seeds. I wanted to show you this as well as I'm tearing down some of this organic material on this end here. And again, we got some seeds that are dropping here. That's just great. I like to add different trichales and collards to my mounds and around the edge, because over time what happens, especially with plants like the purple tree collard, they become kind of gangly and spindly, and they create this nest, which I call the skeleton of the mound. I feel that this plant is great for helping to build up your hugel mound and keep it all contained, because as we fill this with soil, this just becomes all locked in, locked together. And you can see we got these new purple tree collards now sprouting off the main stem there. These are going to become fully mature plants. It doesn't matter if I knock some of this down and add it to the mound at this time as well. But consider growing plants like this that are going to produce woody material, skeleton-like material, right on the mound for you, so you don't even have to take anything from elsewhere in the yard. Now this was a mugwort shrub. This plant is great for making FPJ, fermented plant juice. It's high in iron. Also has culinary usages. It's a good way to transport fire. It makes a slow burning incense. Now we've got a nice day today. We had some rain yesterday. Things are nice and moist. And as always, one of my favorite ways to make sure that I get ahead of the season is to try to get at least one thing done in the garden every day. And today it was to prep this hugelkultur here. Now you can practice hugelkultur even in a limited space. Even if you're living in an apartment, you can do hugelkultur right inside a pot. I made a video showing you how that works. I'll drop a link below if you're interested in checking that out. But the larger your area and the more organic material on your property, the more a gardening technique like hugelkultur is really going to be beneficial to you and help you to get the most out of the resources that are on your property already. So here we've added a bunch of new organic material. Now this kind of stuff's going to break down very quickly, especially when we top it with some soil, some mulch. All right, so we still have some of this organic plant material poking through. That's just fine. This is going to continue to break down. I may even come around in a little bit and add some wood chips on top if I end up having any extras. So this is good to go now. We're going to let this continually break down, and this is ready for another season of abundant gardening. If you are doubting this technique, I encourage you to go back and look at some of the results that we've had using hugelkultur. I just get more and more excited about this technique every year. It's just a wonderful method. And like I said, if you live on a larger property especially, you can build these up in a day. If you've got some tractor equipment, you can dig your trenches, you can tear down trees with a chainsaw and put something like this together and really utilize that organic material on your property. So I hope this video was helpful for you today. I hope it encouraged you to get out there and try hugelkultur gardening this year. So with that, I want to thank you all for watching. Have yourself a great rest of the day. Until next time, this is Dan from plantabundance.com. Take care. I'll be talking to you again soon.